The first time Lieutenant Commander Jace Mercer saw Ambassador Lyradea Vontari, he immediately regretted accepting this diplomatic assignment. Not because she wasn't beautiful, with her iridescent skin that shimmered between deep azure and violet, and those enormous eyes that seemed to hold galaxies within them, but because she was too beautiful. He'd been briefed on the Alturians, telepathic, empathic, incredibly long-lived and bound by sacred biological imperatives. The most important one being that they mated for life, which made the way she was looking at him right now extremely problematic. "Commander, your thoughts are exceptionally vibrant," Lyradea said, her melodic voice containing subtle harmonics humans couldn't produce. "I've rarely encountered such vivid emotional signatures from your species." Jace cleared his throat, acutely aware that his mental barriers were useless against an Alturian of her caliber. "My apologies, Ambassador. I'll try to think more quietly." A small smile played across her silver-flecked lips. "Please don't. It's refreshing." The diplomatic chamber aboard the Terran-Alturian Joint Station Nexus 7 suddenly felt too small. Jace had been assigned as the military liaison to the Alturian delegation for one reason. His psychological evaluations showed unusual mental discipline. The kind that might withstand casual telepathic intrusion. Nobody expected him to work directly with the head of the Alturian delegation. "The Alliance Council has concerns about the Draconis incursion," Jace said, trying to focus on the mission. "The border attacks are escalating and intelligence suggests they're testing our defenses." Lyradea's expression changed, the bioluminescent patterns beneath her skin darkening slightly. "The Council's concerns are valid. The Draconis Imperium views our alliance as a threat to their expansion." She moved with liquid grace to the star map, her ceremonial robes flowing like water. "But they're not just testing defenses, Commander." "What do you mean?" "They're looking for something specific." Her seven-fingered hand swept across the map, highlighting a distant sector. "My people have detected unusual energy signatures near the Varian expanse. The Draconis are searching for something, ancient technology we believe was left by the precursors." Jace felt a chill. The precursors, a mythical race that supposedly seeded the galaxy with life and technology millions of years ago. Most military officials dismissed them as legends, but the Alturians had always maintained their existence. "If that's true," he said carefully, "we need to inform Alliance Command immediately." "Indeed." Lyradea stepped closer, close enough that he could smell her exotic scent like ozone and wildflowers. "But before we do, I need to be certain of something." Without warning, her eyes flared with internal light, and Jace felt something brush against his mind, gentler than he expected, like fingers trailing through water. "What are you confirming you can be trusted?" she whispered. "Your mental barriers are impressive for a human, but I need to see deeper." The touch in his mind intensified, and Jace gasped. Images flashed between them. His childhood on the colony world New Haven, the raider attack that killed his parents, his years at the academy, combat missions, lovers, losses, triumphs. When the connection broke, Lyradea stepped back, her eyes wide with what looked like shock. "What's wrong?" Jace asked, still disoriented. "Nothing is wrong," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But everything has changed." She touched her chest where the Alturian heart nexus was located. "The resonance pattern. It's begun." "What pattern?" "The bonding sequence." Her eyes met his, filled with wonder and dismay. "My species mates for life, Commander Mercer, and my biology has just recognized you as my destined bondmate." Jace stared at her, the implications hitting him like a ship dropping out of hyperspace. That's impossible. I'm human." "Apparently," Lyradea said with a mixture of awe and resignation, "the universe disagrees. You need to reverse it." Jace paced the length of his quarters, avoiding her gaze. 3 days had passed since Lyradea's revelation, and the situation had only grown more complicated. There must be some way to undo this biological mistake. Lyradea sat perfectly still on the edge of his desk, Her luminescence dimmed to match his dark mood. It isn't a mistake, Jace. It's unprecedented, yes. No Alterian in our recorded history is bonded with a non-Alterian, but our physiology doesn't make mistakes in this regard. So I'm just supposed to accept that your alien biology has decided we're soulmates? He ran his hands through his short military-cut hair. I have duties, responsibilities. I can't be bound to you for life because of some cosmic accident. Pain flickered across Lyridia's features, visible in the ripple of light beneath her skin. The bond is not complete. It forms in stages. Currently, I'm the only one affected. She hesitated. If we maintain distance, it will cause me considerable pain, but I will survive. Jace stopped pacing. Pain? What kind of pain? Physical discomfort, emotional distress, eventually a kind of wasting. She spoke clinically, as if discussing someone else's fate. Nothing fatal in the short term. And long term? She didn't answer immediately. My people live for centuries, Commander. A long-term, unfulfilled bond would be difficult. The diplomatic understatement wasn't lost on him. Guilt twisted in his stomach. This wasn't her fault either. Before he could respond, his comm unit chimed. Commander Mercer, priority message from Alliance Command, announced the station's AI. Holographic display flickered to life, revealing Admiral Kavari's stern face. Commander, we've received your report on the potential precursor technology. We're dispatching the science vessel Archimedes to investigate, but intelligence indicates Draconis forces are already converging on the location. The Alterians' knowledge will be critical. You and Ambassador Vontari are to rendezvous with the Archimedes at the Varian Expanse immediately. Sir, I request reassignment from this mission, Jace said before he could stop himself. Kivari's eyes narrowed. Request denied. You're the only human who's established rapport with the Alterian High Delegation. This mission is too important for personal considerations. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving a heavy silence. I apologize, Lyridia said softly. My presence causes you distress. It's not your fault, Jace sighed. Military discipline, reasserting itself. We have a duty. We'll deal with this situation afterward. The journey to the Varian Expanse took 3 days aboard the Alterian shuttle Starlight Whisper. Despite his resolve to maintain professional distance, Jace found himself drawn to Lyridia. Her knowledge of stellar cartography was unparalleled. Her insights about the Draconis strategic mind invaluable. More disturbingly, he began to sense her emotions. Faint impressions at first, then stronger ones. By the second day, he could feel her presence even when they were in separate compartments. Is this part of the bonding? He asked as they shared a meal in the ship's small galley. Lyridia nodded. The second stage, emotional synchronicity. Your mind is adapting to receive my telepathic frequencies. Will I be able to read other Alterians too? No, only me. She studied him. Does it frighten you? Honestly? Yes. Jace pushed his food aside. I've spent my life protecting my thoughts, my privacy, the idea of someone else in my head. I understand. And through their growing connection, he knew she did. I can teach you to control it, to establish boundaries even within a bond. Why would you do that? Wouldn't complete openness be better for you? Her skin shimmered with something like sadness. What I want and what you need may be different things. I would never force intimacy you're not ready for. The sentiment touched him unexpectedly. Thank you. As they approached the coordinates of the supposed precursor site, the ship's sensors detected multiple vessels already in orbit around a small, unremarkable moon. Draconis warships, Jace confirmed grimly. 3 destroyers and what looks like a mining vessel. They've found it, Lyridia whispered, her eyes closing in concentration. I can sense immense power. Ancient thoughts sleeping beneath the surface. Jace felt it too, a strange humming at the edge of his consciousness. Is that coming from you or the moon? Both, she answered, opening her eyes. The precursor technology responds to telepathic species. That's why the Draconis brought Medusan slaves. They're trying to activate it. What happens if they succeed? Lyridea's gaze met his, and the fear he felt through their growing bond sent ice through his veins. If the legends are true, they could rewrite the very fabric of space-time itself. The Draconis didn't detect their approach. Lyridea's shuttle possessed stealth technology beyond anything in the Terran arsenal, bending light and energy around its hull like water flowing around a stone. They landed in a crater 2 kilometers from the excavation site, the shuttle settling silently among ancient dust-covered rocks. "The Archimedes is still 6 hours out," Jace said, checking the secure channel. "We need to assess the situation and prevent them from activating anything before reinforcements arrive." They donned environmental suits, Jace's standard alliance. Issue: Lyridea's a shimmering second skin that adapted to her biology. As they prepared to exit, Lyridea touched his helmet, establishing a telepathic link that would allow them to communicate silently. "Can you hear me?" Her thought voice was clearer than her spoken one, layered with emotional nuances human language couldn't express. "Perfectly," he replied, surprised at how easily he managed it. "This is incredible." "A small taste of what a complete bond offers," she answered, and he felt her wistful longing before she quickly suppressed it. They moved across the lunar surface in long, low-gravity bounds, using natural formations for cover. As they crested the final ridge, they witnessed the Draconis operation below. Massive excavators had uncovered what looked like a doorway embedded in the lunar crust, its surface inscribed with flowing symbols that seemed to shift and change. As Jace watched, "Those markings respond to telepathic observation," Lyridea explained. "They're reconfiguring based on your thoughts." Jace spotted the Medusans, gray-skinned telepathic humanoids with tendrilled heads, forced into neural control collars by their Draconis masters. They stood in a circle around the doorway, clearly in pain as the Draconis overseers pushed their telepathic abilities to interact with the alien technology. "We need to stop this," Jace thought, feeling Lyridea's agreement flow through him. "The Draconis don't understand what they're tampering with," she responded. "Those poor Medusans are being used as tools to force access to systems designed to respond only to worthy minds." What happens if they succeed? The legends speak of the precursor's ultimate achievement, technology that could manipulate reality itself. The power to create or destroy on a cosmic scale. Before they could plan further, one of the Medusans collapsed, blood streaming from its sensory tendrils. The Draconis commander, a massive reptilian figure with obsidian scales, roared in frustration and ordered the others to push harder. The doorway began to glow. "No." Lyridea's mental cry contained genuine terror. "They're breaking through the safeguards." Without hesitation, Jace activated his emergency beacon, alerting any Alliance forces in range. Then he drew his pulse rifle. "I'll create a diversion. You get to that control panel and shut it down." Jace, "Wait." But he was already moving, firing precise shots at the Draconis equipment. Chaos erupted as guards returned fire, energy bolts sizzling past him. Through their link, he felt Lyridea's fear for him, her determination, and something deeper he couldn't name. The Draconis commander spotted him, yellow eyes narrowing in reptilian fury. "Human," it snarled in the trade language. "Your interference ends now." It drew a wicked curved blade that hummed with energy and charged. Jace fired repeatedly, but the commander's personal shields absorbed the blasts. In close quarters combat, the Draconis had every advantage: strength, reach, natural armor. The first blow knocked Jace's weapon away. The second cracked his helmet's visor. As he struggled to breathe in the thin atmosphere, he felt Lyridea's panic surge through there. "Connection, I'm coming," she projected. "No, complete the mission." Through fading consciousness, Jace was aware of Lyridea reaching the control panel, her hands moving in complex patterns over the alien interface. The precursor doorway's glow intensified, but something was wrong. Instead of shutting down, it was opening faster. The last thing Jace saw before blackness claimed him was a blinding light erupting from the doorway, engulfing everything. And in that light, something ancient awakened, Jace awoke to the sensation of falling through endless corridors of light and shadow. His body felt simultaneously weightless and impossibly heavy, stretched across dimensions his mind couldn't comprehend. Only one thing anchored him to sanity: Lyridia's presence in his mind, a beacon guiding him through the maelstrom. "Hold on to me," her mental voice commanded. "Our minds are linked. Follow me back." With tremendous effort, he focused on her presence, using it as a lifeline. Reality snapped back into place like an elastic band, and he found himself lying on a gleaming floor that seemed composed of flowing metal, neither solid nor liquid, but something in between. Lyridia knelt beside him, her environmental suit gone, replaced by her ceremonial robes. His own suit had vanished too. "Where are we?" he gasped, sitting up. The air was perfectly breathable, the temperature ideal. "Inside," she said simply. Beyond the doorway, they were in a vast chamber that defied conventional architecture. Walls, curved impossibly, adorned with the same shifting symbols they'd seen outside. Columns of light rose from floor to ceiling, pulsing with colors Jace had no names for. And at the center stood a structure, like a blooming flower, made of crystal and energy. "The precursors," Jace whispered. "This is really their technology." "Yes." Lyridia helped him stand. "And we're not alone." From the shadows emerged the Draconis commander, its yellow eyes burning with triumph. Behind it shuffled the remaining Medusans, their collars still active. "Ambassador," the commander hissed. "How fortuitous that an Alturian should join us. Your telepathic abilities will serve the Imperium well." "This place isn't meant for conquest, Commander Craxus," Lyridia replied. "The power here could destroy us all if misused." Craxus laughed, a chilling sound. "Power is meant to be wielded by the strong. The precursors were weak. They vanished rather than rule as gods." It gestured to the crystal structure. "My scientists believe this is the control nexus. The Medusans will access it and I will direct them." "You don't understand what you're dealing with," Jace said, stepping forward despite his weakness. "This technology responds to thought patterns, intentions. Your desire to dominate will corrupt whatever you activate." "Silence, human." Craxus drew its energy blade. "You have no place here except as leverage." It turned to Lyridia. "Help us activate the nexus or watch your bondmate die." Jace felt Lyridia's shock reverberate through their connection. "How does it know? Your species' bonding physiology is well documented." Craxus projected smugly, and Jace realized with horror that the Draconis commander possessed limited telepathic abilities of its own. "The way you look at him betrays everything." Lyridia's face remained impassive, but through their bond, Jace felt her calculating possible actions, weighing consequences. "I will help you," she said finally. "But I need to establish direct mental contact with the system first, alone." Craxus considered, then nodded. "Approach the nexus, but remember..." It pressed the blade against Jace's throat. "One betrayal, and he dies before you can save him." As Lyridia moved toward the crystal structure, Jace felt her presence in his mind grow stronger. "Trust me," she projected. "When I give the signal, be ready to move." She placed her hands on the crystal, which responded immediately, glowing brighter and beginning to rotate. The symbols throughout the chamber accelerated their shifting dance. "Yes," Craxus exulted. "Access the weapon systems. Show me how to control the reality-shaping technology." But Lyridia had gone rigid, her eyes wide and unseeing. Through their bond, Jace felt her consciousness expanding exponentially as the precursor system interfaced directly with her mind. The experience was overwhelming, like trying to drink from a fire hose of information thousands of years old. "Lyridia," he called mentally, fearing she would be lost in the immensity. Her response came not in words but in pure emotion, determination, focus, and something that felt remarkably like love. And beneath it, a countdown. 3, 2, 1. Suddenly the crystal nexus pulsed blindingly bright. The collars on the Medusans short-circuited and fell away. Freed from control, they turned on their Draconis captors with telepathic fury. Craxus staggered back, dropping the blade as psychic backlash hit it full force. Jace seized his chance, diving for the weapon and rolling to his feet. "Lyridia, we need to go." But she remained connected to the Nexus, her body now hovering above the floor as energy coursed through her. When she finally spoke, her voice echoed with power not entirely her own. The precursors left this place as a test and a gift, not a weapon. They seeded the galaxy, watching and waiting for species capable of true communion. Her eyes found Jace's. They never imagined it would be through a bond between two different worlds. With those words, she released her connection to the crystal and collapsed. Jace caught her as the chamber began to shake violently. "What's happening?" he demanded as he half-carried her toward where the doorway had been. "The system is reconfiguring," she managed weakly. It wasn't meant for domination. Craxus's intentions corrupted the interface. Behind them, the Draconis commander howled in rage as the floor beneath it liquefied. The freed Medusans were already fleeing through a passage that hadn't existed moments before. "This way." Jace pulled Lyridia into the new corridor, feeling the structural integrity of the entire complex declining rapidly. "What about the technology, the weapons?" "There never were any weapons," Lyridia said as they ran. "Only tools for creation, for connection between worlds." They emerged onto the lunar surface just as the doorway collapsed behind them. In the distance, they could see Draconis ships hastily lifting off, abandoning their ground forces. And above them, dropping out of subspace with weapons primed, was the Alliance science vessel Archimedes. Jace activated his emergency beacon, and as they waited for extraction, he looked at Lyridia, battered, exhausted, but alive. Through their bond he felt her relief, her joy at his safety, and the unspoken question she was afraid to ask. "I'm not going anywhere," he said quietly, taking her hand. "Bond or no bond, I'm choosing to stay." 3 months after the Varian Expanse incident, Jace stood by the viewport in his new quarters aboard the diplomatic vessel Concordia, watching stars streak by in the familiar patterns of hyperspace travel. The mission to the newly discovered precursor site in the Eridani sector would take another week, plenty of time for him to continue studying the data they'd retrieved from the lunar complex. The door chimed softly. "Enter," he called, knowing who it was before she appeared. Lyridia glided in, her diplomatic robes replaced by the more practical attire she'd adopted for their joint scientific missions. The bond between them had grown stronger each day, despite the challenges they'd faced from both their cultures. "Admiral Kivari's report was accepted by the Alliance Council," she said, joining him at the viewport. "The Draconis have formally withdrawn their territorial claims to the Varian Expanse and agreed to independent monitoring of their activities near any suspected precursor sites, and the Medusans we rescued granted asylum and citizenship in Alturian space." She smiled. 3 have asked to join our research team." Jace nodded, pleased but distracted. Through their bond, Lyridia sensed his preoccupation immediately. "You're thinking about the medical scans again," she said, not a question but a statement. He sighed. "Dr. Nakamura confirmed it. The changes to my neurophysiology are accelerating." He turned to face her. "Soon I'll be more telepathically sensitive than some Alturians." "Does that prospect still frighten you?" she asked softly. "Not the way it used to," he admitted. "But I wonder who or what I'm becoming." The bond between them had produced unexpected side effects. As Jace's mind continued adapting to Lyridia's telepathic frequencies, his own latent psionic potential had awakened. What had started as emotional synchronicity had evolved into something unprecedented, a human developing true telepathic abilities. "The Alliance xenobiologists are fascinated," he said with a wry smile. "I've become their favorite lab specimen." "You're much more than that," Lyridia said firmly. "You're proof that our species aren't as different as we thought. The precursors' records suggest they engineered all sentient life with compatible underlying patterns. They wanted us to find each other eventually, Jace moved to his desk and activated a holographic display showing his latest brain scans. These new neural pathways, they match structures in your species exactly. It's as if my brain is reconfiguring itself to a blueprint that was always there, just dormant. The Alturian Evolutionary Council has a theory about that, Lyradia said, joining him at the display. They believe humans and Alturians share a distant common ancestor, one of the first species the precursors uplifted. Our evolutionary paths diverged billions of years ago, but the basic patterns remain. So I'm not becoming something new, Jace mused. Just remembering something very old. Perhaps. She hesitated. There's something else. A message from the High Consortium. Jace felt her uncertainty through their bond. Bad news? Not exactly. She took a data crystal from her pocket. They've reviewed our reports on the bond and its effects. They want to offer you citizenship and formal recognition as my bondmate. The implications weren't lost on him. No human had ever been granted Alturian citizenship, let alone recognition in their complex social hierarchy. And what would that mean for us? It would mean... She paused, collecting her thoughts. It would mean acknowledging that what exists between us is real, valid, and permanent in the eyes of my people. It would grant you certain rights and responsibilities in Alturian society. And the Alliance? Admiral Kivari has indicated they would consider it a diplomatic breakthrough. You would serve as an official liaison between our peoples, the first of your kind to truly understand us from within. Jace was silent for a long moment, feeling the weight of the decision. Through their bond, he sensed Lyradia's hope tempered by her determination not to influence him unduly. And if I said no? Pain flickered across her features, but she maintained her composure. The bond would remain. I would respect your choice. Even though it would hurt you? Even then. Her voice was steady. I told you from the beginning, what I want and what you need may be different things. Jace reached out, taking her 7-fingered hand in his 5-fingered one. The physical contact intensified their mental connection, allowing him to share his feelings directly, his initial fear giving way to acceptance, then to something deeper. When I first realized what was happening between us, I was terrified of losing myself, he said quietly. I thought being bonded to you meant giving up who I was. And now I understand it's not about losing myself but finding something more. He squeezed her hand gently. I'll accept the citizenship and recognition. Not because I have to, but because I want to. The joy that radiated from her through their bond was answer enough. But she stepped closer, her free hand tracing the contours of his face in the traditional Alturian gesture of affection. There will be challenges, she warned. Not everyone will understand or accept us. Let them try to separate us, Jace replied with a smile. I'd like to see them succeed where the laws of physics and biology failed. As if in response to his words, the ship's alert system chimed. Commander Mercer, Ambassador Vontari, came Captain Elios's voice. We're detecting unusual energy signatures ahead. Possible precursor technology. Your presence is requested on the bridge. They shared a look of mutual understanding. Duty calls, Jace said. As always. Lyradia's eyes sparkled with anticipation. Shall we? Together they left the quarters, bound not just by biology or circumstance, but by choice, a human and an Alturian, walking a path neither could have imagined alone. The sky above New Geneva burned. Jace stood on the observation platform of the ERM, Alliance Defense Headquarters, watching as Draconis warships breached the planetary shields. 5 years since the discovery at the Varian Expanse, and the fragile peace had finally shattered. The Imperium had launched a coordinated attack across the frontier, targeting worlds with suspected precursor connections. The evacuation transports are away, reported Admiral Kivari, now aged and battle-weary. Civilian casualties minimal so far. And the research facility? Jace asked, already knowing the answer through his bond with Lyradia, who was coordinating defenses from the secure bunker below. Compromised, Kivari admitted grimly. They were specifically targeted. The Draconis knew exactly where to strike. Of course they did. The breakthrough made by the joint human-Alturian research team had been impossible to keep completely secret. After years of studying precursor artifacts, they had discovered what the ancients had been working toward: a network of consciousness, a way to link minds across vast distances without technology. The ultimate expression of the telepathic potential the precursors had seeded throughout the galaxy. Commander Craxus? Jace asked, referring to their old enemy. Confirmed, leading the assault. Intelligence reports suggest he's risen to War Master. Kivari's expression darkened. He never forgot what happened at the lunar complex. Neither had Jace. The memory of that first encounter with precursor technology remained etched in his mind, along with the changes it had triggered in him. His telepathic abilities now matched Lyridia's in strength, though they differed in expression. Where her talents were subtle and refined, his were forceful and direct, complementary aspects of the same phenomenon. They've breached the inner defenses, Lyridia's thought touched his mind, clear despite the distance and chaos. The prototype is at risk. The prototype, a small crystalline device that could amplify and direct telepathic connections across interstellar distances. The first successful implementation of precursor principles using modern technology. In the right hands, it could unite civilizations. In Craxus's claws, it would become a weapon of unprecedented psychological warfare. I'm coming, he replied, already moving toward the lift. To Kivari, he said aloud, hold the line as long as you can. We're initiating Protocol Omega. The Admiral paled. That's only theoretical. We haven't tested. We're out of options. Jace stepped into the lift. If this works, you'll know soon enough. The research bunker was chaos when he arrived. Scientists rushing to secure data while security personnel established a final defensive perimeter. At the center of it all stood Lyridia, her normally shimmering skin now glowing with intense purpose, as she prepared the prototype. The quantum matrix is aligned, she reported as he joined her. But without a proper activation sequence, we improvise. Jace placed his hands on the crystal structure, feeling it respond to his touch. How many telepaths do we have? 17 Alturians, 8 Medusans, 3 Telosians, and you. Her eyes met his. Not enough for what we planned, but maybe enough for a targeted approach. Through their bond, he felt her determination and fear, not for herself, but for him. The strain of what they were attempting could burn out his still evolving telepathic centers. I'll be fine, he assured her privately. You can't know that, she responded. No human has ever attempted this. No human was ever bonded to you, he reminded her with a smile that belied the gravity of their situation. Above them, the bunker shook as another bombardment hit. Time was running out. Bring the telepaths, Jace ordered the waiting lieutenant, and evacuate everyone else to the last transports. As the room cleared, leaving only those with psionic abilities, Jace and Lyridia positioned themselves on opposite sides of the prototype. The other telepaths formed a circle around them, each placing their hands on connection points of the crystalline structure. Focus on harmony, Lyridia instructed. Allow your minds to synchronize with ours. We are the conduit, not the controllers. Jace closed his eyes, feeling the individual mental signatures around him, each unique, yet all containing that same underlying pattern the precursors had engineered billions of years ago. The commonality that transcended species. As their minds aligned, the prototype began to glow with the same otherworldly light they had witnessed in the lunar complex. Jace felt his consciousness expanding beyond the bunker, beyond the planet, touching other minds with similar potential throughout nearby systems. Now, he projected to Lyridia, and together they channeled their combined power through the prototype. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Across New Geneva, across the entire sector, every being with telepathic potential suddenly found themselves connected. Humans, Alturians, Medusans, even the limited reptilian telepathy of the Draconis themselves. For one breathtaking moment, They experienced each other's thoughts, fears, hopes, and truths. War Master Craxus, leading the assault on the bunker, staggered as his mind was forcibly opened to those he sought to conquer. For the first time he experienced their terror, their determination, their humanity in all its forms. And they in turn felt his ambition, his fear of obsolescence, his drive for dominance born of ancient evolutionary imperatives. Understanding flowed like a tide, unstoppable and transformative. When the connection faded, the silence was deafening. In orbit, the Draconis fleet had ceased fire. On the ground, advancing troops stood motionless, weapons lowered. Jace slumped against the prototype, exhausted beyond measure. Through their bond, he felt Lyradea's concern as she rushed to his side. "Did it work?" he asked weakly. "See for yourself," she said, helping him to his feet and gesturing toward the bunker entrance. There stood War Master Craxus, his weapons sheathed, yellow eyes reflecting a conflict his species had never before experienced. Behind him, his elite, guards appeared equally affected. "What have you done to us?" Craxus demanded, but the usual aggression was gone from his voice. "Nothing you can't undo," Jace answered truthfully. "The connection was temporary. The memory of it isn't. You made us feel them." The Draconis commander gestured vaguely toward the humans and other species present. "Their weakness, their fear, their strength," Lyradea corrected gently. "Their capacity for connection. The very thing your kind has rejected for millennia." Craxus approached slowly, towering over them both. "The Imperium will not surrender because of one experience." "We don't expect surrender," Jay said, standing straighter despite his fatigue. "We expect conversation. The prototype can be activated again on a larger scale, connecting every mind in Draconis space. Would your people choose war if they truly understood what it meant to those they fight?" The threat, or promise, hung in the air between them. Craxus stared at the prototype, then at the bonded pair who had activated it. "The Draconis High Command will want to discuss terms," he said finally. "A cease."